Yep. So let's just sort of double down on CPGs for a minute.
Yeah,
You talked earlier in your career that you were focusing, kind of in that middle market, even
right,
lower middle market. Having worked a lot with private equity and VCs
right,
in my last role at Numerator, you know, that's where all the deal activity was, and
right,
trying to find, you know, kind of hidden gems,
right.
in that middle market, lower middle market. It's really hard,
It's
but
really hard.
there is a lot of innovation going
Correct.
on in those
Right.
sectors, and you've got founders who are really passionate about, to your earlier point, better for you, functional, whatever the benefits are,
Right.
and doing a lot of innovation where the big guys are either following or just acquiring, and that's their innovation strategy. It's
That's right.
it's just acquire somebody that's gotten to enough critical mass or some big enough pain in the rear end to say,
Right.
well, let's buy these guys.
That's correct. And what's interesting, I think, is you're right. In a lot of the big CPG companies, they have they've lagged behind the innovation because the process of innovation, the time to like a go-to-market strategy has shortened considerably, right? With data out there, and like you said, you worked at Numerator. There is so much information out there right now where you can look at particular SKUs or product categories and see where they're trending. Um, and so the pace of innovation is hard to wrap one's head around, especially when you're working at a large CPG company, right? And so
Yeah.
that's why they end up having to acquire these brands, and they're sort of, in some cases, they're out of touch with where the branding is headed, right? So I'll give you one example, like when Hershey acquired Crave, right? So you have a confectionery sweets and snacks business. They acquired a premium jerky company that wasn't their bread and butter. They didn't understand that segment, right?
Yeah.
So they ended up paying a lot for that and integrate it under the umbrella of a big CPG, and it absolutely failed. Now, I'm not saying that every single acquisition doesn't work out, but it kind of shows you the culture clash between big CPG and
Yeah.
fast growing, fast moving, early stage CPG companies that are able to move, and they understand the audience, their customer, in a way that big CPG they don't. So it'll be interesting to see how this evolves. I do expect that many CPGs, because they have that cash cushion, they have the balance sheet, they will continue to acquire. But I think, and I'm hoping that CPG will get smarter, right, as well, so that it's not just about buying a high growth brand, but really evaluating how this brand fits into the portfolio and the overall strategy of these companies.
So you kind of read my mind on my next question. So if we were sitting in the boardroom of Mondelez, Conagra, General Mills, Campbell Soup, pick one of the really big guys, and you said, I think that you guys, really need to focus on three things as a big CPG. What would you encourage them to do?
Well, I think many of the portfolio products, they haven't really brought innovation. Consumer taste buds are changing so rapidly, right? And so I think what they are doing is, let's say, for example, or the Oreo cookie. They're It's the same product, but they're adding a little, maybe some splash to it, maybe a different kind of flavor to the Oreo. So that's been what I've been seeing for most of these CPG companies, right? Now, what I would advise is really analyzing the consumer data. Where are they going? So you almost like have a heat map
Yeah.
of what's happening, what's moving, right? And so this is some of the work that I've been working with, with the folks at Mondelez, um, is looking at all the various trends that are impacting food, and then drilling down even more granular to the kind of the micro trend level, and
Yeah.
having that as a heat map of where trends are going. Now, it's not to say that, oh, we're seeing this particular SKU rocket up 100%, so going all in. It's looking at more the short to medium term and seeing how these micro trends will evolve into specific buying patterns for the consumer, right? So,
Yeah.
but to answer your question, 3 areas. One, obviously, continue to focus on kind of health and wellness, right? And so these are some of the primary ones that they have most have caught on. Others is to look at products that might not be in the traditional sort of like portfolio structure,
Mhm.
but add that kind of that unicorn growth, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I think um, consultants can really help, is really kind of identifying the next big product out there, and
Mhm.
having a team that's dedicated to understanding what those are. Now, there could be many. There's many within that category, but as a corporate strategy is to have a team or a team of external consultants to help management team evaluate which ones
Mhm.
are good. The third, and very quickly, if companies have the balance sheet, is to either build out an internal kind of VC, which Mondelez
Mhm.
has done, and other CPG companies, or invest early in some of the more promising. Now, I like that strategy because you're not paying up when you get that
Yes.
that small of a company. You're not paying up the 10, 15 times EBITDA that normally comes with some of the larger startups. So that's a way to kind of manage a risk. So imagine it's like a stock portfolio, but instead of stocks, you have 20 different high growth, high potential companies that fit with the overall brand strategy of CPG, and then investing in these and watching them, right? Because eventually you don't need to buy 100%, but being an early stage investor in these companies, and I think that will help. It's a defensible strategy. You're lowering the risk profile, but you're also being in tune with where the food economy is headed. And that's
Yeah.
what Food Institute does. We look at these trends day in and day out, provide information, provide insights, and work with management teams to figure out, hey, what categories, what specific types of product would be a good investment to put your resources into.
Brilliant. No, I love it. So, just sort of flipping it from the other end of the distribution, if you were talking with major retailers,
Yeah.
what would you say to them?
Now, retailers are tough because their margins are
Right.
extraordinarily thin, right? So, I was at one of the major retailers. I won't say the name, where their head of their food division basically made the statement that their expectation is that they will break even on their on their food items, and so they're looking to increase their revenue on retail media networks,
I knew you were going to say that.
fuel, right, gas, right, and other non-food products, right? So margins are incredibly thin right now. So I think retailers really need to be thinking about a couple of things: cost management, right? Because employees, the employee costs are very high.
Yeah.
We've seen some retailers introduce robots that scan the aisles and do inventory counting, and everything
Yeah.
is put up on the cloud. So basically, make things more efficient. But the second thing, and I think some of the retailers have done this quite well, is kind of be on the cutting edge of new products, right? So, as they build out their retail media networks, as they build out their content, they're informing consumers of new products, new trends. So they have to get involved in helping to educate their own
Hmm.
consumers of what to buy, what not to buy, about health. So consumers are so strapped throughout. They're stressed at work. They don't
Yeah.
want to be thinking. They don't want to be spending a couple of hours a day figuring out how they're going to feed themselves and their family. If retailers can take that burden off and say,
Yeah.
hey, here are a few options, right? That at a good price point, it's healthy, it's on trend, and you only need to, put it in the microwave for 15 minutes and you have a fully prepared meal. Those are some of the things that I would advise these retailers to focus on, right? The second thing is you don't necessarily need a huge store format anymore,
Mm.
right? Everything, all that information can be put online and digitized through email campaigns, through website, through videos, and so it helps reduce the burden of a fixed cost for these retailers. So being innovative in store structure, how to use data, how to use technology, and informing the consumers of new up and coming trends and products, you know, if a retailer were to do that for me, I'm like that I would be a very loyal customer. But as of now, I'm still going to 3 or 4 different retailers in my neighborhood.